What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here with another smartphone smackdown. This time we've got two 4G superphones going head-to-head in a carrier matchup. In one corner we have the HTC Evo 4G, and in the other we have the Samsung-built Epic 4G. We're going to compare these two suckers in a 9-round test and see who comes out on top. So there are obviously a myriad of categories we could have discussed in different rounds we could have done, but with the interest of this not turning into the Lord of the Rings type length video, I had to cut them down to 9. And the 9 rounds we're going to be comparing are call quality, signal strength, display, specs, design, text entry, software and UI, browser, and finally speed. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Both of these are phones first and foremost, no matter what else they do, and call quality has to be solid. These are very representative, I think, of Sprint's lineup as a whole, assuming you have service where you are, and call quality is absolutely fantastic on both. In the 20 call tests, I had no drop calls, very little white noise. In fact, it sounded like I was on a landline pretty much the entire time on my end and the caller's other end. So both of these very strong, really excellent call qualities. This round is going to be a draw. Now the next round we're going to talk about signal strength. I don't usually get a chance to compare these because it's not always apples to apples, but because these are both Sprint phones, it's sort of a very easy test. Now I'm in Orange County, California, where we currently do not have 4G, so I can't tell you how these handle WiMAX, but I can tell you how they handle 3G when I brought them out different locations together. And what you're seeing right now is pretty representative here. The Evo is alternating between 1 and 2 bars, and the same thing for the Epic. Depending on where I am, they tend to alternate between 2 and 3 bars each. Right now it looks like the Evo is just showing 1 and the Epic showing 2. When I go to other places, oftentimes that's just reversed. So signal strength really seems to be very, very close and on par with both these devices. If you are in a strong Sprint area, or even a fringe Sprint area like I am right here, you're not going to have much issue. You'd be able to pull in at least 1 to 2 bars. So this round's also a draw. So now I've got 2 draws out of the way. Let's talk about the display. This is what you're going to look at and use mostly interacting with the phone. And from a spec standpoint, these sound very similar. The Evo's got a 4.3-inch 800 by 480 resolution display, which as you can tell is quite big and really nice. The Epic has a 4-inch screen with the same resolution of 800 by 480. However, its touchscreen technology is something called Super AMOLED. It actually puts the touch mechanism, integrates it into the glass as opposed to putting it on top, which is going to give you crisper colors and sharper contrast levels, really darker blacks and better visibility in direct sunlight. And I would happily trade that 0.3 inches of extra screen real estate for the beautiful, beautiful picture and image quality and text quality that comes across on the Epic 4G. Even if looking at the screens right now in a little bit of direct sunlight and the same brightness, you can clearly see a difference in the screen here. The Epic 4G just looks a little bit better. Now that Super AMOLED screen isn't without its downside. It's going to give you a little bit of sort of a grayish, bluish tint, but something I could easily live with. So if we're talking about the displays, the Epic has got to take this round. Alright, so next let's talk about design. We're going to talk about the physical designs of the phone, not the software right now, though we will talk about the software in just a minute. So the Evo 4G is a typical Android phone. It's got your array of Android buttons across the bottom. They are capacitive buttons, but they do have sort of physical representation. So that home button is always there, the menu button's always there, the back and the search button. They don't go away or disappear. You've got your front-facing camera on the front, your rear-facing camera in the back, which we'll talk about, and you've got a little bit of a kickstand if you want to watch videos while traveling or sitting at your desk, whatever it is you might like. It's sort of a classic slate design. It's elegant and very thin. Now talking about the Epic 4G, it almost looks like there aren't buttons at all. You have to actually touch the screen, and then those buttons will show up. And they are the same sort of capacitive buttons array, just arranged a little bit differently, and they look a little bit different, customized for the TouchWiz interface found on the Epic. So it's same similar slate design, camera on the back. There is not a kickstand, but you do have a slide-out QWERTY keyboard. And we'll talk about the keyboard in the text entry round. A little bit thicker because of that keyboard. Now, ordinarily, I would have called this round a draw, but the Epic has one feature that I found extremely annoying. It really hinders my usage. And you might be able to guess what that is. It comes to these capacitive buttons across the bottom. I can't see where they are right now. If I want to find the home button, I gotta sort of tap it to figure out where it is. And there's the home button. I don't always know where to tap, and it disappears again. So oftentimes what would just take one tap to hit the home button sometimes takes two to make it light up and show you exactly where it is. And I found it to be very, very, very annoying while using the phone. And that one little detail really can hinder the user experience. Now, it's nothing you can't get past, certainly, but at least from my standpoint, I found it to be a little bit less than a positive. So from a design round, this one's going to swing back to the Evo. Alright, next let's talk about text entry. If you're picking up one of these phones, odds are you use the internet a lot, maybe a lot of text messages, emails. You're going to want a phone that's got very good text entry. Now both of these are Android devices. The Evo 4G is now an Android 2.2 device. The Epic is an Android 2.1 device. We'll talk about what that means a little bit later. But they both have on-screen keyboards. And they both have speech-to-text, meaning you can just talk to them and they'll interpret your text, and both work very well. When it comes to text entry, there are a few things we want to notice. So the keyboard here on the HTC Evo 4G uses HTC's proprietary keyboard skin, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's relatively good and looks pretty nice. So I'll go ahead and type a new message here, and you can see exactly what the keyboard looks like. So here we've got in portrait orientation, flip it over to landscape. It works very well, and it's got Android's really great auto-correction feature. Go ahead and push this back, and of course you can install other keyboards such as Swipe, or if you like the proprietary Android keyboard, you can always go back to that. There is no physical QWERTY keyboard here. You're limited just to what's on screen, and this is a very capable on-screen keyboard. Now take a look at the on-screen keyboard on something like, let's say, the Epic 4G. It's going to be a bit of a different scenario here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the keyboard again. And you've got, here we've got the sort of stock Android keyboard, a little bit of Samsung flair to it. This does come preloaded with Swipe, which is a new way to type, and the keyboard here works very well, similar to what we see on the Evo. However, one of the nice things about the Epic, and it's really the only Galaxy S variant that offers this, it's got a full slide-out QWERTY keyboard. So whether you want to use it or don't use it, you do have an option. This is a pretty solid QWERTY keyboard. It's got a full row for numbers, and your fingers aren't hindered by the top of the device. The sliding mechanism is quite nice as well. It's spring-loaded, and the keyboard's really easy to type on. So you have the option of really using anything you like. The on-screen keyboard, physical QWERTY keyboard, if you don't mind the little extra bulk that the keyboard's going to give you on your phone, the Epic is going to be a great device. So when it comes to text entry, no surprise here, the physical QWERTY keyboard is going to give the Epic the edge. Alright, next let's talk about software and UI. As I just mentioned, the Evo 4G is now an Android 2.2 device. You may have heard that mentioned as Froyo, whereas the Epic is an Android 2.1. You may have heard that mentioned as Eclair. Now, one of the nice things about Android being an open operating system is that manufacturers have the ability to put their own custom skins on top of them. So each of these devices isn't really what Android looks like in its raw form. HTC uses something called Sense UI, which sort of goes right on top of Android. So these little bars across the bottom, the menu tray, the phone, and the plus are unique to Sense. I can jump right in and view any of my 7 screens here by just doing a pinching motion. Go ahead and jump right there. And there are a bit of other sort of UI tweaks. There's a lot of widget support, and there's a lot of social networking support sort of built right in. HTC has done a fantastic job with their Sense UI. They've been at it for many years. On the other hand, we've got TouchWiz built into Android 2.1 on the Epic, which has some cool features as well. It also has 7 home screens. There's no real way, out of the box at least, to view all 7. You just have to keep sliding left to right. It does have some nice UI enhancements. If you pull down this tray here, you can jump from Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 4G, and GPS. And it's got these 4 icons sort of pinned to the bottom. Now, certainly you can customize these with applications from the Android marketplace. We're going to talk about how they come right out of the box. So if I have to pick one of these, I'm going to go with the one that has Android 2.2 with Sense, and that would of course be the Evo 4G. I think it's a bit more intuitive, a bit more elegant, and it has a lot more widget support. So the overall software and UI, not to mention the fact that it's running Android 2.2, which the Epic will eventually get, this round is going to go to the Evo. Alright, so now let's talk about browser. If you're picking up one of these devices, probably going to use the browser quite a bit, since they both have fantastic multi-touch capable browsers. Let's go ahead and take a look at the browser on each of these. So go ahead and jump right into browser here, and we'll go ahead and launch Techno Buffalo, and we'll do the same thing here on the Epic. And it's going to be pretty similar looking on both. Go ahead and launch the site. And this has been loaded on both devices before in the past. So while this is still pretty much loaded, as I clicked it first, let's talk about the browser on the Evo. Of course, multi-touch, very quick to react, works really well. And since this is an Android 2.2 device, it does have full support for Flash 10.1. So if you visit websites that use a lot of Flash content, you're not going to have any trouble viewing it on the Evo, and it has the power to handle it as well. It's really going to be a little bit choppy and not as smooth as it would be on your desktop PC, but it's going to work. Scrolling is a relatively smooth affair. There isn't any sort of that pixelation at the bottom you get from fast scrolling. You can see the content changing here, utilizing Flash, whereas right now on the Evo, that little content or advertising block is actually blank. So pretty smooth, very nice experience, and multi-touch really works as you'd expect. Go ahead and zoom in and zoom out. Jump on over to the Epic. You do not have Flash support since it is not yet an Android 2.2 device, although presumably it will get Flash 10.1 support, as Samsung has said it will. Browsing, this pinch and zoom works even a little bit smoother than perhaps we see on the Evo, and scrolling is a pretty smooth affair as well. Works pretty well on both devices. Now this is going to come down to, not surprisingly, the ability to run Flash. This is sort of a Android 2.2 versus Android 2.1 type of debate. Now this round is going to have to go to the Evo. However, once the Epic does get updated to Android 2.2, this round would most definitely be a tie. But as of this filming, which is September 24th, 2010, this round has got to go to the Evo 4G. Alright, let's talk a little bit about speed. How fast are both these devices? Their spec sheets are incredibly similar. And actually, before we jump into speed, let's talk about the specs of each device, because spec sheets read very similarly. So the Evo on the left has a 1500 milliamp hour battery. They claim to get about 6 hours of talk time, 4.3 inch screen, that same resolution we talked about earlier, 480 by 800. It's got 8 megapixel camera with dual LED flash, and if I was going to go into more depth and more rounds, I would have shown you camera. However, cameras work pretty well on both of these. It's got a front-facing camera for video chat, Android 2.2, Snapdragon processor at 1 GHz, 512 megabytes of RAM, and of course 4G capable. The Epic spec sheet sounds almost exactly the same. 1500 milliamp hour battery, 6.5 hours of talk time, 4-inch Super AMOLED display screen with a resolution of 480 by 800, only a 5 megapixel camera, and that does have LED flash, and has a front-facing camera as well. Android 2.1, the Cortex A8 Hummingbird, clocking in at 1 gigahertz, very similar architecture to what we see in the iPhone 4 and Apple iPad, 512 megabytes of RAM, and 4G. So while you are going to get on the Evo a little better camera, on the Epic, you're going to get sort of that full slide-out QWERTY keyboard and the Super AMOLED display. So it's really going to be, half a dozen, 6 of the other. It's almost exactly the same, depending on what you like. So this round is clearly a draw. Spec-wise, these things are really stocked to the gills with all the specs that you'd expect from a superphone. Alright, so now let's talk about speed, which I allured to a little bit earlier. Let's see how quick both these devices are, and this is going to be a test of, I suppose, the Snapdragon chip versus the Hummingbird chip in the Galaxy S or the Epic 4G. So go ahead and go to Home. I'm going to go ahead and quit all applications here. I'm going to use the same task killer to kill all of these. So we have sort of all our available memory free. Kill all selected apps, and I know that both of these skins sort of use different things in the background that sort of aren't killed. This is about as fair as a test we can get without sort of eliminating all the skins. None of these are running live wallpaper, so that's not using any sort of memory. We're going to go ahead and open up similar applications. So I'm going to go ahead and open up 2 that I just downloaded from the Android Marketplace. These are 2 free games. We got Paper Toss and Angry Birds. Let's go ahead and open up each and see if we have any sort of speed difference here. Go ahead and open up both at the same time, which can be much harder than you'd expect it to be. Alright, so just a little bit quicker loaded up here on the Evo. Go ahead and close out of this. and close out of that as well. And I'm going to leave those open in the background. We're going to do the same things to show what the speed differences are. I'm going to go ahead and jump back, and let's try some angry birds and see if there's any speed difference here. And it looks like it was just a little bit quicker on this time on the Epic. So no real conclusion there. Let's go ahead and jump back to the browser and see how quick the browser speeds are. And I will say that right now this is connected to Wi-Fi. I'm going to go ahead and turn off Wi-Fi, so we're relying only on the 3G network, which now is showing 2 bars and 2 bars. It sort of references back to my signal strength round a bit earlier, almost exactly the same. So we'll go ahead and go back to Techno Buffalo, by the Techno Buffalo here, and we'll do a site refreshes of each of them. And I keep checking these things every day, hoping I'm going to see a 4G network turn on. They're sort of testing it in Southern California, but I've yet to really see it. Now, I should mention that this is not going to be the fairest test because there is some Flash content being loaded here on Techno Buffalo. I do want to show you what it's going to look like when you're loading a website that maybe might have a little bit of Flash. And I'll tell you what my results have been while doing speed tests. So we're going to go ahead and do simple refreshes of each. Go ahead and open this up. Open this up right here. I've got Techno Buffalo queued up. I'm going to go ahead and hit go right here. And they are both off, and they're both connected to the same 3G network. This is not a Wi-Fi test. We're going to see which one is quicker. So it looks like the Epic showed content a little bit earlier. You can see the green progress bar at the top, but now the Evo sort of passed it and showing a bit more content. And we are still loading here. And it looks like, surprisingly, the Evo finished first and the Epic finished second, which is quite interesting and really actually representative of the other tests that I've done. So despite having to load Flash content, the Evo was still a little bit quicker in web browsing. And that's really been sort of representative of what I've seen. I did a test previous of 10 web pages, and the Evo actually loaded 7 of them quicker. Not noticeably quicker, like we saw here, 1 or 2 seconds. Nothing that's really going to make or break the device. But from a speed standpoint, it definitely was a little bit different. So speed and the final round is going to go to the Evo 4G. So for those of you keeping track at home, here's how our 9-round Epic throwdown went. Call quality was a draw. Signal strength was a draw. Display went to the Epic. Specs were another draw. Design went to the Evo. Text entry went to the Epic. Software and UI went to the Evo. Browser went to the Evo. And speed went to the Evo. Meaning the Evo is our winner. We're taking 4 rounds. The Epic took 2. And we had 3 draw rounds. Both of these are really fantastic devices. If you prefer a QWERTY keyboard, you can't go wrong with the Epic. If you're sort of deciding which one to get and you're not sure whether or not you care about the QWERTY keyboard or not, I think the Evo is going to be a more solid choice. Generally, I enjoy using the Sense UI a bit more than I have on TouchWiz, although that may be just a personal preference. I like the little thinner, despite the fact that it's a little bit larger. Then it fits in the pocket without creating, excess sort of bulge. If you will. Either way, you can't go wrong, especially if you get 4G service wherever you are. You're going to be able to pull down some blazing hot speeds, especially with the mobile hotspot capabilities that both devices have. So you agree, disagree with my results? Love to hear what you guys have to say. Be sure to check out Techno Buffalo for all your tech news and exclusive content and giveaways. Check me out at Twitter, twitter.com/John4Lakers. And for all of our YouTube stuff, it's youtube.com/John4Lakers. I am John Rettinger, and I am going to exhale and see you in the next video.